Short gap. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Jivamaya Yoga Wisdom Talks. This month, we're kicking off the subject of yoga therapy. And who better to kick us off is John Kepner, who is the Executive Director of the International Association of Yoga Therapy. And John has been at the helm for 17 years. Amazing. In 1989, Larry Payne, who is the founder of IAYT along with Richard Miller. Larry Payne now has his program at LMU, as well as his own company called Samatha International. And Richard Miller is well known for his IRES program. So the two of them have moved on beautifully after establishing this incredible organization, which moved from 1991, when they first published their membership directory of 185 members in 10 countries, and we are now at 5,000 members in over 50 countries, with 57 accredited programs and 4,000 IAYT certified yoga therapists. That is amazing, and that is outstanding. So congratulations to John and all who are involved in this really beautiful organization. So I'd like to begin by asking John, why therapy? Why was it necessary to add that word therapy to the word yoga? And maybe how does that differ?
Okay. So in contemporary Western societies, most yoga classes are for fitness and stress reduction. Okay, they're aimed at some general population. We wanted to identify a group of people and a profession that could work with people with a wide variety of healthcare conditions. Okay, that's different. You have to be able to adapt the practice to people, to lots of different types of people, lots of different types of conditions. And we wanted a distinct identity. Okay, a distinct identity that we could have high published standards, plus accreditation, plus certification, plus code of ethics, and all those things that you require to have a profession, to make that distinct from yoga teaching in America or in the West. Yoga teaching in America, the standards are low relative to us. So we needed a distinct identity to identify, communicate with the healthcare profession and the public. Okay.
Wow, beautiful. All right.
May I give some examples?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Think of a typical 56-year-old male, works in an office, overweight, has chronic low back pain. Okay.
Right.
If he goes to a regular or typical yoga class, I know there's lots of kinds. If he goes to a typical yoga class aimed at 20 to 30-year-olds, something, particularly young, flexible women, he's not going to fit in. He might get hurt. In fact, he probably wouldn't go. Okay. But yoga has so much to help this person. So if there was a class or an individualized program to help this person, we can adapt the practice to meet his conditions, which is, only one of his dimensions is chronic low back pain. He has all the other dimensions of a human being. Okay, so we can have a yoga practice that helps his back and also provides what I'm going to call yoga, which would be some breathing and some stress reduction and maybe some inner peace. Okay, that's a structural issue. Now, there's another example I like to give on the other end of the spectrum, and I'm going to call that spiritual, for lack of a better term. Okay, let's suppose you're a 60-year-old woman. You've just gone through chemotherapy. Your body is sort of wrecked. Your mind is foggy. You still don't know if you're going to live or die, and your whole world has been upended. So if you go to a class or individual that is geared towards people in your situation, the yoga practice might be able to help you sleep better, help you gain more energy, help you regain your appetite, and cultivate some more inner peace, which is so important. And you would be with typically with another group of people with the same situation. So there's a Sangha there, a community that's developing that you can share all sorts of common experiences. And so that's something that we want to promote, a Sangha of people with common experiences such as this, where they don't know if they're going to live or die, or how are they going to live in the world when their life is so different. So structural on one hand, spiritual on the other hand. That's adapting the practice to the needs of the individual.
That's beautiful. So you were speaking about standards, and I believe in 2012, IAYT launched the IAYT educational standards for training of a yoga therapist. And this 1,000 hour program is really quite in depth, and I can verify that because I've been through it. How has this certification been met with the Western world, the Western medical world, I should add?
Okay. Let me back off a little bit, then come to that. Okay. I'm going to circle around it.
Okay.
Our mission is to establish yoga as a recognized and respected therapy. Okay.
Right.
That's kind of like a yoga sutra in the sense that it means lots more than just what it says on the surface. So if you're going to be a profession in the West, you're going to have lots of things. You're going to have peer-reviewed journals like we do. You're going to have conferences for practitioners. You're going to have research, and you're going to have credible standards. Okay. Standards is not just about hours. Standards is about, on one hand, gaining competencies. Professional standards are competencies. They're not just hours in curriculum like the Yoga Alliances. Okay. Also, you have to have an accreditation process that accredits yoga therapist training programs, that there's some review that they actually teach the competencies. Then you have to have a certification process to certify people that meet those standards. Then you have to have code of ethics and continuing education, and then eventually you're going to have a certification exam, which is coming. So you have to have a bunch of stuff. In order to meet the standards for participating in Western healthcare, you have to have all these accoutrements, okay? So standards is a term for a whole bunch of stuff, which I've just laid out, okay? Now, 1,000 hours, which is a lot more than the other standards for yoga teaching.
Right.
It's also not just hours. Again, I stress it's competencies. So the programs have to demonstrate that they teach and assess a wide range of competencies. Okay. Now, those are all the hoops, if you will, that one has to jump through in order to be a respected profession, and that's okay. That's what we have done. We got help from the other established complementary and alternative medicine fields like chiropractic, acupuncture, naturopathic medicine. They helped us understand what it would take to become a profession. And we've done all that. And so we've been recognized by at least the Integrative Healthcare Commission, Integrative Healthcare field, that we are doing everything that's required to be a professional field. So for example, we've been a member of something called the Academic Collaborative for Integrative Health, which is a collaborative of all the licensed complementary alternative fields. We've been a dues paying member since 2006. They said they would help emerging fields like us. And we've actually been the major, the longest standing, and we were the first unlicensed field admitted to that group. That's been our way to get a seat at the healthcare table. From there, we met people with the Academic Consortium for Complementary and Integrative Medicine. That's a big group of about 70 medical schools of people that are interested in integrative healthcare. We're also a member of something called or at least we've worked with the Academy for Integrative Health and Medicine. And we also work with a policy group called the Integrative Healthcare Policy Consortium. Okay. Now, this consortium, which is a policy group representing all these other groups, they recently wrote Congress, because Congress is trying to support healthcare practitioners in the COVID crisis. Okay. So they said, when you talk about healthcare practitioners, define them as people that are licensed by states and nationally certified practitioners. That's people like us. Okay, we they recognize there's people like yoga therapists and Ayurvedic practitioners that are out there that are really helping the situation. They're not licensed by the states yet, but they want to recognize us. So there's a few more hoops we have to go through to get, quote, the national recognition. But we are well prepared for this. And I'm so excited that they actually use the term nationally certified in
Right.
communication to Congress, because that's something we can hang our hat on. Okay. Makes sense? So
It makes, yeah, it's awesome. And it kind of begs a question, which I didn't plan to ask, but what about the schools? Um, what have the schools had to provide to you in order to become a school that could offer this 1,000-hour program?
okay, so we'd call these accredited programs. Okay, we accredit programs, not schools. Okay, schools do lots of things, but they also have an accredited program. The accreditation process is a rigorous professional review process. Okay, not everybody knows when they start this process how rigorous it is. It probably takes, I'm loosely saying this, a year to go through this process. You've got to get ready, you've got to apply, you've got to get reviewed by our staff, you've got reviewed by the peer review committee. Okay, we have a peer review committee that is they're charged. They have the sole authority to approve accredited programs. That's the professional way. Now we have 57 accredited programs. We probably have 40 or something programs that dropped out. Okay, it's not easy to do this thing. So some people have just decided it's too much work. They don't want to do it. Not going to meet it. All that stuff. That makes me feel good. That shows this is not a rubber stamp process. This is a rigorous professional review process. It's the highest in the world.
So when somebody says that they are a CIAYT yoga therapist, you know that you are working with, I guess you would say, somebody who really has the training to hopefully assist you with your needs.
Yes, that's the goal. Now, we still have an uphill battle to be recognized by the public. Much of the public doesn't know the difference between yoga and yoga therapy. This is a long term, I'm going to use the term marketing or public relations, but it just takes a while to get known. Okay.
Right.
So we're doing so much to reach both the professional healthcare community and the public. So that's why we have that website called yogatherapy.health, which
Right.
is aimed not at our membership, but it's aimed at the public and the other healthcare community interested in this.
So for those of you listening, by all means, subscribe. It's not, there's no charge to do so, but you do need to subscribe in order to get the e-newsletter once a month, and it's really beautifully done. Yoga, it's all lowercase, yogatherapy.health. It's
Yes.
an awesome site. So bottom line, yoga therapy has grown tremendously since you took the helm. Where do you really see it going now? What is the real desire and the hope of aside from what you have already mentioned, of where yoga therapy can now go to?
Okay, that's a big question. That's a good question. Now, my vision has been that CIYT would be recognized in lieu of being licensed. Okay. Right now, some hospitals, some major centers will actually employ yoga therapists to work as yoga therapists. Other ones won't do it because they're not licensed. Okay. The the medical director is one of the yoga therapists. The lawyers nix it because they're not licensed. They're worried about the liability. This is mixed across the country. Okay. So my vision is to be fully recognized like a licensed field. Now that's pretty ambitious, but that's okay. our society is recognizing more and more how important stress reduction, lifestyle, taking charge of your own health, all those things that yoga therapy does. It's been recognized by the conventional fields how important that is. Okay. And that's been also another part of my dream is to recognize for society, our healthcare system, to recognize the importance of personal self-care that people can do themselves. They don't have to go,
Right.
you may have to pay some money to get trained in an appropriate yoga therapy practice for you. But the cost of seeing a yoga therapist are small compared to most conventional medical costs. Because we're outside the system, we're not licensed, we don't accept insurance. So, it's a mixed two-edged sword. We don't have the inherent cost of the conventional healthcare system, which requires, of course, a lot of people just to administer health insurance claims. Okay, so the overall the future is bright, but our healthcare system is still generally defined by what's reimbursable and licensed fields. So
Right.
we are well poised for that, but we're working through that. And it's my hope that our system opens up some and becomes more accepting of these quote alternative fields like yoga therapy, Ayurveda, that is happening on a conceptual basis. To the extent that happens in a financial basis, that's what we're working on. Okay. It's
So you partially answered the question about insurance. What about health savings accounts?
I'm glad you asked because I've been talking about health savings accounts for 20 years. Okay. I actually had a medical savings account before they were called health savings accounts, and I think they're great. Yoga therapy is covered. Yoga therapy can be paid for through health savings account. Okay. It can be a little tricky because these days they give you a little card, and the card is only queued or tied to things like pharmacies and doctors' offices and stuff like that. But there are ways around that. I won't go into them right now, but you can definitely pay for it. Now, the IRS provides a list of services that are eligible for health savings accounts. Yoga therapy is not on that list. That's okay. The list is not exhaustive. I read the law. I read the administrative rules. I've talked to the IRS. I read the court cases. And I wrote an article about this way back in 2005 about how yoga therapy is eligible to be paid for through health savings accounts. And since I'm not a lawyer or not an accountant, I actually hired a lawyer to write a legal opinion to verify what I've been saying. So go back and look at that 2005 article, financial support for yoga therapy that I was the orchestrated, and you'll see how that can be done. Okay.
Awesome. So I guess one of the final questions anyway would be, what about you? You're stepping down after 17 years. This has been your 24/7 passion for 17 years. What are you going to do now?
Well, I'm going to back up a little bit and then come back to this. My long-term interest, what's really been driving me for at least 20 years, is more support for what's used to be called complementary and alternative medicine. Okay. I know too many people that are helped by that, but can't afford it because they've been sick and they can't afford to pay for it. And Medicaid, for example, doesn't pay for that. So in some sense, working with yoga therapy has been something I could do to make these things more accessible to everybody. Okay. So I'm happy about that. We're pretty far along. We still have work to do. Yoga therapy, Ayurveda still has work to do on that. But now it's time to step down. Okay, I've been with this for 17 years. The field IAYT needs some fresh blood. I'm ready to relax. I don't know if I can do that, but I'm ready to relax.
No, you don't.
So here's what's okay. So we will hire a new executive director soon this month, and that person will probably start in the fall. Okay, exactly when we're working on that. I'm very excited that the people I've seen, we have at least 2 really good candidates. I'm really excited about them. And my first responsibility is to support this new person for at least a year in a modest way in the background. Okay. They're the executive director, but I'm going to help them any way I can. Secondly, I've accepted, at least in theory, Ayurveda, the National Ayurvedic Medical Association, will have a ethics review panel, just like IAYT has. And I've handled all the ethics complaints since we set them up. So I have a lot of experience with ethics in yoga therapy. And so I volunteered to help them. So if they accept me, I'll be on that panel. Okay. So that's
Beautiful.
good.
Beautiful.
Now, my long-term interest remains, I've been using this term, how to crack the insurance nut. Okay. If you're not careful, insurance will define your practice, and you have to become a factory to be efficient, to be economical, like yoga therapy for back care, get 18 people in there and charge them a little amount of money. That's not what yoga is all about. The Dean Ornish program for reversing heart disease is a program that's covered by Medicare. Okay. So for a comprehensive yoga-based program, they don't never, it was conceived 30 years ago, so they use the term stress reduction, not yoga. But it's a yoga-based diet, it's exercise, it's group therapy like Sangha, and the stress reduction is yoga practice. That's a very well-researched program that still remains one of the best models of how yoga therapy is accepted by the reimbursement system. It's paid for by Medicare and some insurance companies now. And I'm pleased to say one of the most successful examples of that actually takes place in a clinic not too far from me in a small town outside Little Rock, Arkansas, where I live. So that's one place. Also, we'll be getting more inroads into integrative approaches to pain management. Given the opioid crisis, there's more and more interest in non-pharmacological alternatives to pain management. Well, yoga fits right in there. Another thing is in cancer care. So there's a lot of research showing that yoga appropriately provided can help people recover better from cancer, from chemotherapy, for example.
Right.
So we've been investing in relationships with the Society for Integrative Oncology. That's where they bring yoga, acupuncture, diet, all that kind of stuff into treatment for cancer. It's already out there, not well covered by insurance, but that's one of my long-term interests, to see if we can get insurance coverage, at least in that area, because of the term called financial toxicity, which is well known. You get cancer, even though you have insurance, even if you have insurance, it will be financially toxic for you. So there's a important need, a well-known need for that. Okay. And one of my personal dreams, I'll share this with you. I have a fantasy about getting an Airstream and traveling around North America, going to beautiful campgrounds in a peaceful environment and relaxing for a while. So we'll see if that happens.
I hope you'll come by Las Vegas. I don't know if we can offer you a peaceful environment, but it might be fun after a bunch of peace. You mentioned Dean Ornish, and you mentioned yoga, cancer, which brings me to mind of Michael Lerner, and therefore both of those gentlemen. I'd like to also mention Nishala Joy Devi, who was very, very instrumental in bringing that whole yoga aspect into the Dean Ornish and Michael Lerner. I think his name was right, Michael Lerner Program for Cancer.
Oh yeah, he was a keynote presenter at one of our conferences.
Okay. Yeah. So really, really key. Well, I'm not sure that it sounds as if you're going to be any less busy, but I think it's wonderful, and I'm excited that you have the possibility of being involved with NAMA, the National Ayurvedic Medical Association. And I have to personally thank you so much for all the work that you did with IAYT to bring Ayurveda onto the standards as part of the standards, because You know, my passion is Ayurveda, and I think that it has to be a very, very important part of yoga therapy. I don't see that it can be separated, and I will say that Arun Deva will be with us on the week of, let's see now, it'll be the 17th of June, and I know that he'll be speaking about that, so we'll learn more from him on that subject. So, John, before we close, is there anything that you would like to say about yoga therapy? Past, present, future.
Well, first to thank you personally for how much you've contributed and all the ways you've been with IAYT, plus going through a whole yoga therapy training program and now teaching yoga therapy and teaching Ayurveda. It's been fantastic to see you both grow and contribute to the field in more and more ways. So that's been great. Plus, you've helped us keep really strong connections to the National Ayurvedic Medical Association. That's truly a sister organization, both historically and in contemporary society. We work together very well. And the fact that we work together to present these Indian or Vedic sciences, I think, provides synergy as how we connect with the wider world.
Lovely. Thank you. It's been an honor. So I want to thank you for being with us today and enlightening everybody with your words about yoga therapy and what it is, the history, where it's going. Your contribution to it has been very profound. And I for one say that I wish you well, and I will very much miss you. So I'm hoping that that we're going to see you around at various conferences, etc., or maybe Zoom. Who knows?
Hopefully, I did plan to stay in touch. This has been my community for more than 17 years. I've met many great friends like you and other people, and so watch out.
That's lovely. Wonderful. Absolutely awesome. So I want to thank John and thank all of you for being with us today. And I have a lovely message from Marianne Norika, who says, I'm watching this from the beginning. Thank you. So this will, as you know, as soon as we close, I will be downloading this to YouTube, and it will be on the Jivamaya Wisdom Yoga Talks YouTube. And at the end of the month, I put onto the website the entire month. So if you've missed something and you don't want to go to YouTube, you would rather see it through my website, just go to jivamaya.com. It's all there. And next week, we will be welcoming Michael Lee, who's the founder of the Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy School. That's the second school that opened for yoga therapy, gosh, almost 25 years ago, right? And Michael developed a really interesting program, and I think it's going to be wonderful to have him on because we really are going to talk about how yoga therapy can address the times that we're living in right now, which are challenging to say the least. So it'll be a really wonderful dialogue. So once again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, John Kepner. It's so awesome to see you. It's a treat for me. So I get to see you and talk with you. And what can I say? Thank you very, very much. So we're going to end the stream here. And John's waving goodbye to everybody. I don't know if you can see, if you can't see me, I'm hoping you can see him. So I'm going to stop the stream and thank you all very much again. Please be safe, be well, etc.
Okay.